At the University of Washington, John Gottman conducted a study where couples stayed overnight in a studio apartment with cameras set up and they were wearing microphones. The couple were told to bring anything they needed to experience a typical weekend, including their pets. The goal of this was to answer all of the questions about marriage. Why is it tough? How can you save one or prevent it from going downhill? Gottman's prediction rate of a couple is 91% after decades of research. Researchers measured the levels of the stress-related hormone adrenaline when newlyweds argued. 10 years later, they showed the comparison to couples who remained happy and those who did not. Those who were unhappy or divorced had 34% higher levels of adrenaline when arguing as newlyweds. Also, the stress hormone ACTH was higher in those as well. After talking about research, he goes into talking about why or what can make a marriage work. Emotional, intelligent marriages are much more likely to succeed. They keep a positive and helpful attitude about their partner and have a better understanding, honor, and respect of one another. Gottman dives into why save your marriage. People in unhappy marriages have a 35% greater risk of getting sick, and those who do stay in happy marriages live 4 to 8 years longer. Being in a happy marriage can also boost your immune system. People satisfied with their marriage had more active natural killer cells than did the unhappy people. Gottman conducted another study of children being raised in homes where there was marital hostility. They had chronically elevated levels of stress hormones compared with the other children. And they followed these kids up to age 15, and they found that kids raised in marital hostility homes had more depression, peer rejection, behavioral problems, achievement at school, and even school failure. Gottman also conducted a workshop for couples. He measured their heart rate, blood velocity, sweat output, respiration, and immune function throughout the interactions. Afterwards, he played the tapes back for the couples and asked what their insider opinion was, such as what were they thinking when their heart rate spiked or blood pressure raised during discussion. Afterwards, he checked in with the couples once a year until the study ended to see how their relationship was going. Couples who did his workshop have a relapse rate that's about half from that standard marital therapy. The results of this workshop/experiment formed the basis of the 7 principles for making a marriage work.
Throughout the extensive research the author has done, he found 7 underlying themes that self-proclaimed happy couples have in common within their marriages, hence what this book is about. The basis of a happy marriage is building a strong foundation on friendship, which comes down to simple things such as enjoying each other's company, knowing each other intimately in terms of likes, dislikes, personality quirks, and expressing their love through small gestures throughout the day, such as calling to ask how a big meeting or appointment went, or cooking with the other person's interests in mind. The book mentioned that one thing that lies at the heart of every failed relationship is betrayal. It talked about how society typically thinks of cheating or other sexual aspects when the word betrayal is used, but emphasizes that more often than not, emotional betrayal is more detrimental to relationships than infidelity. Ultimately, the key to a happy marriage is learning how to better attune to each other and make friendship a top priority. Another thing mentioned in the book was a method called repair attempts. For example, in the book, it talks about a couple who was yelling at each other and having a heated argument, but suddenly the wife imitates the couple's 4-year-old son by standing with her hands on her hips and sticking out her tongue. Her husband does it too, since he anticipates that she is about to do this, and they both start laughing. Little humorous things like this ease tension and are often called secret weapons of emotionally intelligent couples. If a couple has a strong understanding of their friendship, they become experts at this.
So the first principle of the book talks about enhancing the love maps between you and your partner. A love map is the part of the brain where you store all the relevant information about your partner's life. There's some couples who are emotionally familiar with the other partner's world. They are each experts in the other's goals, worries, and hopes. And the author describes this intimate familiarity as having a richly detailed love map. But on the other hand, many couples tend to fall into a habit of becoming out of tune with the details of their spouse's life. They may only have the faintest sense of the other's fears, likes, dislikes, stresses, joys, that sort of thing. So in other words, they're lacking in this love map, And without this love map, you don't really know your partner. So if you don't really know them, how can you really love them, is kind of what the author is trying to say. Not only does having a love map allow you the general knowledge you need to properly love your partner, but possessing a strong love map can also help during conflict. The book includes a few tools for determining the state of the couple's love map. This includes a questionnaire where the couple is required to list or name things about their partner's life, like their favorite kind of music. There's also a 20 questions game. Another exercise includes making your own love map with your partner. The last exercise in the book gives is called Who Am I, where the couple sits separately and answers questions about their own triumphs throughout their life, any kind of like injuries or healings that have occurred, thoughts about their emotional world or who they want to eventually become in the future, and then the couple will like read the responses to their partner. And lastly, the author reminds us that developing these love maps is an ongoing process. So it's definitely okay to continue to return to these exercises throughout the couple's marriage. So the second principle in the book talks about nurturing your fondness and admiration for your partner. The author explains how fondness and admiration are two of the most crucial elements in an enjoyable and long-lasting marriage. Yet when these feelings have completely departed from the marriage cannot be revived, and divorce or separation is often the only choice. The best way to tell if this fondness and admiration still exists for the couple is to delve into how they view their past. So if a marriage is in trouble, concentrating on the present probably won't get you anywhere. But looking towards a couple's past, when times were so good, can often spark up these positive feelings that used to exist. If you're attempting to revive or enhance fondness and admiration for your partner, it's not very complicated if the positive feelings you had towards your partner still exist. Simply thinking and talking about them, basically like reflecting on why you cherish this person, can pretty much try to like reignite that lost flame. By acknowledging and openly discussing the positive aspects of your partner in your marriage, the bond between you and your partner can be strengthened once again, which makes it easier in the long run to discuss any kind of problems that might arise. The book contains a questionnaire that couples can take together to determine their current state of fondness and admiration. There are also other exercises, including an I Appreciate tool, where couples choose from a list of words that they think describe their partner. An exercise where the couple discusses their history and philosophy of their marriage, and even a 7-week course where couples are asked to reflect on a certain positive quality about their partner each day, and then take action by writing down examples of their partner performing this positive quality.
In Chapter 5, Gottman discusses his third principle that attempts to build connectedness and promote positivity within the relationship. During small interactions and conversations, if the partners physically face each other, their romance and connectedness increase, overcoming the stressors of the relationship. Some exercises that Gottman suggested were physically drawing out your personal emotion bank account to see where you as a partner stand with what you're doing for your spouse. As this could be a great tool to use and see the benefits and deficits of what you're doing with your partner, it could also cause competition within the relationship, hurting it further and not moving forward with the problem. He also talked about having conversations that are meaningful and stress-reducing. Some elements of stress-reducing conversations are taking turns to talk, no unsolicited advice, show genuine interest in what your partner is saying, communicate your understanding and let them know if you are not understanding what they're trying to say, take your spouse's side, take the we against others attitude and work as a team, express affection toward each other, and validate your emotions. When a spouse does not turn to you, he also suggested that to reflect on your actions, to figure out what triggered the feelings and how you can move forward as a couple. Chapter 6 talks about Principle 4 of letting your partner influence you. This principle should be used for when there seems to be an imbalance of power between partners. A weakness that I found about this principle was that it mostly focused on the male at fault, with little advice of how women can let men influence them more. When a male does not accept his wife's influence, it leads to 81% of these marriages diminishing and not lasting in the long run. Husbands react to this by escalating the conversation of using the four horsemen, which is criticizing the partner, contempt or disrespecting his partner, becoming defensive and shutting down, or stonewalling, which is actually ignoring his wife. This principle points out the gender differences between men and women in relationships. Women are more emotionally intelligent due to the fact that growing up, their focus is more on relationship building. Ways to actually let your partner influence you start with accepting that your partner influences you for a cohesive, strong relationship. Most of the time, or 80%, women are the ones to start the sticky conversations. Men are not accepting to this and usually tend to shut down. If men are accepting to this, the problem can be solved a lot more easier. An exercise that Gottman decided to use is creating a list of what to use on a deserted island from things on a ship. Each partner comes up with their own list and then works together to create one cohesive list to discuss how their thought process can work together in a conversation to ultimately build their relationship. Guide them through the next steps and the next principles. Chapter 7 dives into the 2 kinds of marital conflict. I thought this was a strong chapter in the book that can be applied to many different kinds of relationships, more than just marriage. He classifies these 2 kinds of conflict into solvable and unsolvable. 69% of conflict are perpetual or underlying issues that are not situational. Perpetual issues are unsolved and are problems that are learned where partners just live and cope with the differences and they end up not bothering the other partner. I don't think that Gottman discussed strategies of how to cope with these perpetual problems to avoid the issue of gridlock. Gridlock occurs and the 4 horsemen come out and decrease affection within a relationship. Some signs of gridlock are conflict makes you feel rejected by your partner, you keep on talking about it but make no progress, you become entrenched in your positions and are unwilling to budge or move forward. When you discuss the topic, you feel more frustrated and hurt than better. The conversations about the problem are devoid of humor, amusement, or affection. You become more unbudgeable over time, which leads to mutual vilification during these conversations. The vilification leads to being further rooted in your position and polarized, more extreme, and you're less willing to compromise, and eventually you disengage from each other completely emotionally. This causes the couple to believe that their unsolvable problems are not normal and allows conflict to take over their relationship as a whole. Solvable problems are situational based. They are way less intense and perpetual and can be issues in friendships and family dynamics. Gottman talks about solving these relationships and include conversations that are soft and not harsh, repair the relationship, how to monitor body language to make sure one is staying calm, learn how to compromise, and how to be tolerant of each other's imperfections, as no one has a perfect relationship. Chapter 8 dives in deeper about how to solve the solvable problems. Solving the solvable problems leads to a happier marriage, and I think a happier relationship in any dynamic. By working on these 5 steps, all relationships can improve. First off, in a disagreement, you should soften your startup. Women tend to be more harsh, and men react physiologically, which causes them to shut down and not help in the argument. If you phrase a disagreement in a softer way with using manners and explain your reasoning, the conversation will go a lot better. Gottman says you should complain about the issue and how it's affecting you rather than blame your partner. Secondly, you should learn to make and receive repair attempts. This means to use repair statements in conversations like saying, I feel, discussing when you need a break, and be apologetic. Then you should get to the point and begin to compromise and acknowledge each other's point of view. Next, if it begins to escalate, you should stop the action and start over and go back to the beginning of the disagreement. At the end of the disagreement of a conversation, you should appreciate your partner and talk about what you're thankful for and how you love them within the relationship. Another thing Gottman talks about is how self-soothing is important. You should take a break in a fight when it gets to an escalation period and do activities like breathing and yoga. It is also important to be understanding of what floods your partner and what you can do to help them soothe and get back to a point where you can discuss the problem. Next is compromise. Gottman uses the exercise of making a paper tower together. During compromise, you need to discuss with what you agree with and what is most important to reach the goal and how you can use your feelings to get that. Lastly, Gottman says you need to be tolerant of each other's faults. You cannot change the person you are in a relationship and should celebrate each other's individuality. If you think you can change the person, then compromise will never happen, making these solvable problems unsolvable.
Okay, Chapter 9, Coping with Typical Solvable Problems. So they list 7 problems that couples face and the tasks and that each problem include and the solution. So the first one is unplugging from distractions. The task is maintaining connection and intimacy amid the distractions of the internet age. So the solution to this is to establish rules and etiquette. Maybe don't have your phone at mealtime or date night. Just respect your spouse. And the second problem is stress and more stress. So the task, making your marriage a place of peace. The solution, take time for yourself to decompress after a long, stressful day before interacting with your partner. Third one is relations with in-laws. So the task is to establish a sense of we-ness. The solution, side with your partner. You are a husband or wife before you are a son or daughter. Next one is money, money, money. The task, balancing the freedom and empowerment of money. The solution, create some clear-headed budgeting together. Next one is housework. The task, creating a sense of fairness and teamwork. The solution, they just say basically men could do more housework. Next one, parents, or becoming parents. The task, you're expanding we-ness to include children. The solution, it gives 4 different ones. Focus on your marital friendship. Don't exclude dad from baby care. Let dad be baby's playmate. And carve out time for the two of you. The last solvable problem is sex. The task, fundamental appreciation and acceptance of each other. The solution, learn to talk about sex in a way that makes both partners feel safe. Someone wants to attend church and the other partner is an atheist. They reach what the book describes as gridlock. And so you reached gridlock when you have the same argument again and again with no resolution. Neither of you can address the issue with humor, empathy, or affection. The issue is becoming increasingly polarizing as time goes on. Compromising seems impossible because it would mean selling out, giving up something important to your core beliefs, values, or sense of self. So the book offers 4 steps to overcome gridlock, and the first one is explore the dreams. So choose a particular gridlock conflict in your relationship, and both of you write an explanation. Don't attack the other person or badmouth them. Just focus on what your needs are, what your partner's needs and wants and feelings are, and each person explains their dreams for 15 minutes, and each partner takes turns listening and speaking. Step 2 is soothe, since opposition can be stressful, especially with these kind of differences. If you feel signs of stress or flooding occurs, the conversation will not go anywhere, so it says to take 20 minutes to do an activity that calms you. Step 3 is to compromise. So there are some non-negotiable areas which you cannot give in because it violates your basic needs or core values, but there are areas of flexibility. So make the areas of flexibility as large as you can, and try to come up with a compromise and try it out for 2 months and see where that takes you. And then step 4 is to say thank you and to look inward and express gratitude to your partner. Offer 3 specific thank yous that they mentioned it earlier in the book, and to end the conversation on a positive note.
Chapter 11 discusses Principle 7, Create Shared Meaning. In your relationship, if you find yourself asking, is this all there is? Then you might be missing a deeper sense of shared meaning. This is having a spiritual dimension that has to do with creating an inner life together beyond the normal tasks of family life. One of the ways to help this is to create your own culture. This means they are giving shared meaning to their sense of togetherness. Developing a culture doesn't mean the couple sees eye to eye on everything, but they understand each other and honor their partner's dreams and goals. Creating customs in your family include things like having family dinners and engaging in conversations, and celebrating holidays and certain events that are important to the both of the partners. This also includes rituals such as doing errands together, taking care of your partner when they are sick, or baking a cake together on someone's birthday. When relating to your partner's role, your marriage will feel deeper when you have a shared sense of place in the family. An example is also having similar views of parenting and what values you consider important to give to your children. Sharing your goals with your spouse will increase intimacy and also make your marriage deeper by working towards shared goals and achieving them. One of the strengths of this chapter is it had exercises with questions relating to these topics to see where you and your partner stand on rituals, roles, and goals. You can get a sense of what culture and customs you already have made and which ones you would like to implement. For the last chapter, What Now? It talks about how no book or therapist can solve all your problems, but using these 7 principles can help you change the course of your relationship and to make it stronger. Small changes can have a positive effect over time and help you improve your relationship. Marriage is a journey. You might have to take some steps forward and some steps back, but you should always be trying to improve and keep going in the right direction. One example the book gave on keeping momentum is an approach called the Magic 5 Hours. To spontaneously fix and or improve their relationship, people would renew their relations in about 5 hours a week with many small things. The activities included 1. Parting. Before saying goodbyes in the morning, find out one thing which is happening in their partner's life that day. 2 was reunions, stress-reducing conversations at the end of each workday. 3 is admiration and appreciation. Find some way every day to communicate genuine affection and appreciation towards your spouse. 4 is affection. Kiss, hold, grab, and touch each other when together, and make sure to kiss each other before going to sleep. 5 was weekly date. This could be a relaxing, low-pressure way to stay connected. Ask each other questions to update your love maps and to turn towards each other and think of questions to ask your spouse. This approach takes minimal time, but these 5 hours combined will help enormously to keep your marriage on track. After all, it is the simple things that mean the most. Another example the book gave was the idea of the marital poop detector. Some experts claim that a significant cause of unhappiness in marriage is that people have too high of expectations of each other, and by lowering these expectations, it will help your marriage. This was proven wrong, and they actually found that people with higher expectations of marriage had the highest quality of marriage. For example, people who refused to put up with too much negativity, contempt, or defensiveness, and insisted on confronting it all gently, wound up the happiest married. Therefore, marriage needs an early warning system that lets you know when your marital quality is in danger of deteriorating. The system is called the marital poop detector. It's a way of saying when something just doesn't smell right, as the book put it. Another thing discussed in the last part of the book is to forgive yourself. If you see yourself as a self-critic, the best thing you can do for yourself and your relationship is to work on accepting yourself and all your flaws. We need to forgive our partners for wrongdoings, but also forgive ourselves and knowing when to admit our own mistakes.